Was our guy Cameron Wolfe from NFL Network. He was actually in Cleveland at Browns HQ as they were in the war room, and they were the ones that helped be part of the blockbuster trade, moving back from 2 to 5, allowing the Jaguars to come up and get Hunter. The Browns settle in at 5. They get Mason Graham out of Michigan, the defensive tackle. And joining us now, this is crazy, the earliest ever in a show, we are already howling with the Wolf. Cam Wolfe looking sharp in the suit. If you're watching us on the YouTube stream, Cam, are you good? Are you warm out there in Cleveland, man? I know it gets chilly.
Hey, it was actually 78 degrees yesterday.
Whoa.
I was out there cooking. We got a little rain today. It's in the 60s, but it could be a lot worse. I'm definitely enjoying a little bit of a good weather here in the Midwest.
At what point last night did you know the Browns would actually pull the trigger? Because we knew they were fielding calls. We didn't know exactly how many teams or who was most interested. But at what point before it was announced did you realize?
Oh, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I started getting texts from my contacts that, hey, got some surprises coming. Expect something unexpected. And then about 6 o'clock, I got confirmation that the trade was going to happen as long as the board fell as we expected. Cam Ward went to Tennessee, then it was already done. And so at that stage, I was prepping myself for the big announcement. Us at NFL Network, we can't tip picks. So I had to vaguely give people an idea of what's going to happen the best way I can. And then obviously exploded when the news dropped around 8:15. So I had probably about a couple hours of official notice and maybe 4 hours of notice of, we're going to shake this thing up.
This is crazy, man. General Manager Andrew Berry, who has obviously been under the microscope from national media, local media, people calling for whether or not he's making the right decisions. Kevin Stefanski seems to have a good hold on that job. People respect him as an offensive mind. But this is a little risky from the Browns, right? When you trade out from getting a generational talent, oftentimes we see people are on the wrong side of that, and they run the risk of doing the same thing they did in 2011 when they were the ones that traded out and let the Falcons come up and get Julio Jones. Was it just the fact that the Jaguars had the heap of picks, or do you get the feeling that the Browns were not as sold on what Hunter can be?
No, I think they really like Travis Hunter. I think that, if they stayed at 2, he would have been the guy. I just look at this as a situation. They really needed more good players. And that was it. They were not a player away, and they felt like the value of this haul was too good to pass up. I had a talk to a exec this morning who described it as a quarterback premium haul in a draft where there was no premium quarterbacks other than Cam Ward. So you're getting a haul that is almost too good to pass up. And that's kind of where the Browns were. Hey, we're willing to listen. If you're willing to do something a little wild, then we're willing to move back. And the Jacksonville and their new general manager, James Gladstone, thought Travis Hunter was worth doing something a little wild for.
Yeah.
And so that's what this came down to. And I think for Cleveland also, they don't have a quarterback. And they didn't feel like any of the quarterbacks other than Cam Ward were worth spending a top 5 pick on. And so getting that first round pick in 26 potentially sets them up for a success if they choose to wait at quarterback.
We are howling with the Wolf. Cameron Wolfe, NFL Network reporter. He covers, obviously, all of the NFL. He's out in Cleveland right now for them as they continue through day 2 and 3 of the draft. He also, obviously, has spent many years down here covering the Dolphins and the NFL at large. Year 10 covering the league for my guy. In all of your years, right? I know, that's what I was about to allude to, actually. In all of your years, though, covering the draft, man, have you ever seen one prospect be as polarizing as the man that is the story of day 2, and that is Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter's former quarterback, who is still available?
Yeah, probably Tim Tebow was the last guy, and for completely different reasons, right? Tim Tebow was polarizing because people weren't sure if he could play quarterback. It was just simply that, and balancing his success in college versus what he could do in the pros. For Shedeur, it's something way more complex. It's a mixture of, his skill set and what he can be, but also what he is off the field, who his dad is, all the layers that come with that, how he handled the pre-draft process. All of those layers, I think, make Shedeur's case a lot more complex. But I think the reality is Shedeur's going to hear his name called today at some point, and he's going to get a chance to go to the team. He gets to write his story in the NFL. I think a lot of this week is going to be we built him up in the media to be a top 5 pick, and the league never saw him that way. The league never saw him as a player that was going to go very high in the draft, and I think now we're seeing the reality of how the league sees him. And so I'm sure Shador is disappointed. He's going to use this as fuel. He'll go somewhere today, and we'll see if he can make a great career out of it. But I think that's some of this on us in the media of hyping up a guy where the conversations I had with teams were that it was a clear gap between Cam Ward and the rest of the guys, and I think the public thought it was a lot closer, and there was an expectation, and that lets the feel of disappointment, of letdown, of falling in the draft. When I don't know if that necessarily is the case here.
That it's funny you say that because it is on the media, right? Because we got caught up in the sandstorm that was the Colorado propaganda machine, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And it's great, and it still is with Coach Prime. But maybe we were a little ahead of our skis there. Here's the official details of the trade, the blockbuster trade. The Jaguars give up the number 5 pick, a second-round pick this year, number 36 overall, a fourth-round pick, number 126 overall, and they're giving up next year's first-round pick. In return, they get the Browns' number 2 pick, which they turned into Travis Hunter, along with a fourth-round pick, 104 this year, and the number 200 pick, the 6th round this year as well. When you look at that and you consider the fact that Hunter is a two-way player, he's a guy that Liam Cohen and the Jaguars, their GM Blackstone, am I getting that?
James Gladstone.
Yeah, I knew I screwed it up, but the guys know he's young. When you look at what they gave up to get Hunter, and you also consider that he is a guy that they plan to play at 2 premium positions, corner and wide receiver. They've already come forth and said that's the plan. Does it feel a little too pricey to you? Like, I know you're at the Browns HQ, so don't say it too loud, but who do you feel like early on won this trade?
Yeah, I will say I asked people smarter than me. I talked to 3 different executives,
a lot of people, by the way,
different teams. And, that's a lot of people that are smarter than me. 3 different executives from different teams to get their feel. And all 3 of them said they felt Cleveland won the trade.
Wow.
They felt like that the value that they got in the trade was substantial. I had one exec said I would have done that exact trade, and Travis Hunter is the best prospect I've seen in a couple years. And so both things can be true. Jacksonville got the best player in the draft, and Cleveland probably got more value than people anticipated them getting, especially in this draft. So they got to get those picks right. None of it matters if they don't. If they flame out, then you wasted the picks for nothing. But I think that a lot of times teams overestimate their ability to evaluate prospects. And when you get 3-4 premium players out of 1 pick, it gives you a better chance to hit on at least 2 or 3 of them. So I think Cleveland feels good about how they've set up their situation. The fan base is going to have to wait a little longer to maybe see that turnaround go about.
Man, with the Browns screwing up a draft pick, Cam, I mean, that would never happen. What are you talking about?
They've had a history of not getting, especially the quarterback position right. So definitely there's a lot of hesitation on trusting the plan and trusting the process here. I understand the process, but we got to see it in fruition, and quarterback's the big part of it. They got to get that right or nothing else matters. And that was going to be the case whether they drafted Travis or not.
Good thing they got Flacco and Pickett in the room to stabilize things there out in Cleveland. Again, I can say it because they're not right behind me. We're howling with the Wolf. We're howling with the Wolf on a Feel Good Friday, day 2 of the NFL Draft. This Cam Wolfe is up there at Cleveland Browns HQ as they gear up for. They have 2 of the top 4 picks here in the second round, right? Is quarterback
33 and 36? So it's going to be a lot of Browns on the clock tonight.
What's up? Like, what's the early feels? Now, I know you're not allowed to tip picks and stuff. You are with NFL Network. You got to play it close to the vest. But I mean, the expectation from the outside looking in is they're likely going to find a way to leave this draft with a quarterback. Do you at least have a feel for who fits a Stefanski system best when you look at the Milrose of the world, the Shucks, and of course the man of the hour, Shador Sanders?
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't think they love any of the prospects that are left at the quarterback position. That's why they're still on the board. I think that all of them have warts. In some way, you just got to choose which one you live with. I think what's going to be interesting, obviously, Shador Sanders is going to be the name that everybody tracks. But Jalen Milroe, they have a lot of familiarity with him. Their offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, was Alabama's OC in 2023. And I talked to Kevin Stefanski yesterday and kind of expressed just how much Rees shared with them about his process, how Milroe works, being in the meeting room every day with him, seeing how he moves and how that's helped their evaluation. Now, is that enough for them to make a pick for him at 33 or 36? I'm not sure. We're going to see that, and later on today. But I will say they're going to have to bet on some type of traits if they take a quarterback. For Milroe, is that he's the fastest quarterback in the draft. He's got incredible speed, but he's got big questions about his accuracy and where he is as a passer. Shedeur Sanders, accuracy, very much a big pro for him, but questions in other aspects. And then Tyler Shuck is an older prospect. He's done it for a year, but he's got some of the moxie, some of the size, some of the traits that people think you can mold at that position. So, maybe they take a quarterback at some point. I just don't think it's a lock. I think that, like I mentioned earlier, there is a vision of 2026 potentially being a route where you get your guy, and they have a lot of needs, wide receiver, running back. There's a couple of Ohio State running backs that are higher on the board. Luther Burden, the Missouri wide receiver, is still on the board. A couple Iowa State receivers, and then Ariante Irsay, the tackle from Minnesota. If they want to get better up front, there's a lot of picks here they could do, and they got a lot of picks as a team to get better. So I know the hot topic, the sexy pick would be, hey, Shedeur Sanders comes off the board at 33, but I don't know if that's going to be the fruition today. We'll see.
Cameron Wolfe joining us again, NFL Network reporter and our guy, friend of the show here on Theoretically Speaking. Let's just a couple of superlatives from last night's draft. Number one, this is what we've been asking our audience all day. This is what we're going to be leading with is, what was your number one surprise from day one of the NFL draft that again shook out? We got 26 SEC players drafted. We only got 2 quarterbacks. What shocked you most?
Yeah, so I'll leave out the Jacksonville-Cleveland trade because we talked a lot about that, and obviously that was a surprise. Atlanta trading a future first-round pick to go get James Pierce. That's honestly the move that has got the most conversation from people I've talked to around the league this morning. Definitely a lot of surprise. James Pierce is a really good prospect, had some question marks on the off-the-field stuff from people I talked to, and that's why he fell. He was considered the second best pass rusher by most people talent-wise behind Abdul Carter, but again, character, medical often makes you fall on board. So they gave up that 26th first-round pick, and who knows where the Falcons are picking next year. They got a quarterback they really like in Michael Penix, but he's only got 4 starts. So I think people thought they overpaid a lot in that department, and the Rams, could be big beneficiaries there. So I'd say that was the biggest surprise.
Here's my pushback, though, with what the Falcons did. I actually like it because, to me, it feels like they're betting on themselves, and they're betting on Penix, who is going to be like 25 years old next year. If they do what they have the ceiling to do, which is to win the NFC South, right? The Panthers, the Saints, and the Buccaneers don't pose that much of a threat to where that shouldn't be a realistic goal. You win your division, you maybe win a playoff game, you're picking in the late 20s. That, to me, is sufficient enough to take a risk on a guy in James Pierce, who before the college football season started last year, he was the number 1 overall player when ESPN did the full college football rankings. And you went out and got another edge rusher. So the Falcons' storyline over the past decade is they can't sack a quarterback. They went and got 2 dudes who are supposed to be sack monsters out of the SEC. So, you got to feel like this is like, hey, we feel like we're winning now. We're good.
Yeah, I understand it completely. Like Terry Fontenot, their general manager, he was aggressive. He filled their biggest need in a big way. And if you're looking at Jalen Walker and James Pierce getting 15-plus sacks combined next year, I think you're really happy with that trade. I think the value perspective is really the same thing we're talking about with Jacksonville. There's unknown of the 2026 draft. Like the NFL has a unique perspective compared to the NBA. The NBA, you can protect picks. And you can say, hey, this is top 3 protected, top 10 protected. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. Mm-hmm. You end up having a bad year. You got a 2nd overall pick. You traded it last year. It is what it is. Yeah. And so the unknown, I think, is what scares people in that perspective. But I'm with you. If you really felt good about James Pierce, you feel good about Jalen Walker, you get 2 of the top 3 potential best pass rushers in this draft to fill your biggest need, and you can go win a winnable NFC South, and I think we look back and say maybe the Falcons knew what they were doing.
My dog with the OKC Thunder, Sam Hinkie, or who's it with the? He would have a field day in the NFL with the amount of picks he's been the future picks he gets with the Thunder. If they were all unprotected, goodness gracious. We're howling with the Wolf. Cameron Wolfe, NFL Network's very own, who's out there in Ohio. Y'all aren't in Cleveland, right? Y'all are in Berea. Where y'all at?
Berea, Ohio, yes.
Berea,
That's
Ohio.
Where the Browns facility is.
Got you, right.
Yeah.
Home of former home of Lou Groza, former great
Berea.
Browns. Yeah, Berea. Am I saying Berea or Berea?
Berea.
I said it right. Dang it. This dude you're trying to correct me right now. How about this? How about you answer my superlative right now? You said what your biggest shock was. You're shocked by the Falcons 2 straight years you're shocked by the Falcons. What about this? What was the most awkward moment of the draft last night? Because I'm torn between Matthew Golden, the UT receiver, going up to the stage in Green Bay and being like, everybody, Green Bay on 3.
Go Pack Go. He know to Go Pack Go.
Yeah. And also what about Travis Hunter 3 or 4 times in the middle of his press conference trying to stop things short to hear if Shador got his name called, and it kind of never ended up happening, which was painful to kind of watch, but also a little awkward. What stood out to you in that facet?
Yeah, I actually thought the Travis thing was cool with me. Like, I get it. That's his brother, Shador, and he's falling. And I think, to me, that ends up being the biggest story we have Friday. I'm actually, and it was different because you see the cameras on ESPN with it. But I actually was a little down seeing all the shots of Shador. Like, no matter what you think about him, man, like, 20th pick, you show him on camera. 25th pick, you show him on. Like, the guy's not going today. It's not the best day of his life. I get it. You give him a little bit of a breather. To me, that was probably the most awkward moments. I think he and his team handled it well.
Yeah.
They did a little speech after and said, hey, this is not what anybody expected, but it's going to fuel you. And guys have waited a long time and still had good careers. Lamar Jackson waited till 32. Jalen Hurts waited till the second round. And I still remember all of Philly was up in flames. Why would you draft a quarterback when you got Carson Wentz? Sometimes it just works out the way that you don't expect. So that was a little awkward for me to see, but I think we'll hear Shador's name pretty early today, and he'll be fine.
My day 2 projection here, and I'm going to get yours after mine. You talked about how Philly reacted. You have a quarterback. You drafted Jalen Hurts. My day 2 projection, the Dolphins fans are singing a similar but opposite tune. You got a quarterback under contract for a while, but you go and get a guy, and instead of being mad and up in flames, they'd actually probably be rejoicing a little bit. Cam Wolfe.
Okay.
What's your bold day 2 projection or prediction here that you think might happen in rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft?
That's interesting. Your projection is interesting. I do think Miami gets a quarterback. I just think it'll be close to day 3. I look at the kid from Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, lefty that plays similar to Tua, and maybe he's a guy for them. But day 2, I don't know if there's a ton of surprises that you could have at day 2.
Where do you think Luther Burden will go? I like Luther Burden a lot out of Missouri. The dude's a dog.
Yeah, I think he'll go in the top 5 picks today.
Yeah.
Maybe Cleveland's a spot for them. They could use a receiver after passing on Travis, but I think he was another guy that the media was probably a little higher on than teams. He's more of a yards after catch guy. There's questions on, can he do the full route tree? But he's got a lot of explosion, and I think he'll go pretty high today.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Well, I'll let you.
I think you'll see both of the Ohio State running backs go in the first 10 picks of the second round today.
There we go.
There's 2. They have two running backs, Travion Henderson and Judkins, I believe, is the other guy, and I think they'll both go in the first 10 picks of the second round.
The way them dudes was balling against me in CFB 25 all year, every time I played somebody that had they better go in the dang first couple of picks. Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Cam Wolfe, appreciate your time, man. Stay warm, which I guess ain't much of a problem these days in Cleveland. And good luck with all the picks that's going to be flying off the board tonight, dog.